Hi family, welcome back to Lolla Life. Let's dive right in. Here are my thoughts around Lollapalooza, festivals, the vaccine, and the testing requirements. So I know this is what you've been waiting for. Let's jump right in. Welcome back to Lolla Life. If you're new here, hi, welcome. It's nice to have you here. My name is Ashleigh. I'm a rave mom and mom of real life, and I create content around self-care, Peloton, and of course raves and festivals. Today we are going to break down my thoughts and my review of Lollapalooza, and a big majority of our time will be spent on talking about the vaccine screening process because, as you may already know, after Lollapalooza 2021, all of these other major festival companies and event planning companies decided to roll out these mandates. So without further ado, here are my thoughts. So I'm going to break this review into 4 different parts. The first one is getting in. That includes logistics, just how easy it was to get in to the festival. Underneath that is a subcategory around the vaccine process and the testing process, how they verified it, what happened, my tips and tricks, and all of that stuff will also be included. Then I will also talk about the food and the beverages and the merch available, because what is a festival review without talking about food? And then I'm also going to talk about my set highlights, the acts that I really enjoyed seeing overall. And then last but not least, I will go over the crowd, the vibe, the scenery, and the energy of the festival. And we'll also cover the controversial topic of the age of the crowd and just the vibes. So category, getting into the festival. All in all, I would say that getting into the festival, the logistics of that went really, really well. Lolla is notorious for taking a really long time to get in. From the people that I know who've previously gone, they had mentioned to me before we went that some days, depending, especially if it's a peak time, it could take them 2 hours to get in, and that there wasn't a lot of traffic flow. I think personally that this time around, because of COVID, they were very cautious to make sure that there was an even stream of people going in and out, and that there wasn't these long waits in these big crowds. So all in all, when we went most of the days, it was really just getting right in. You would get your bag screened, there wasn't much of a line, and you would go through. Now, in terms of how it was organized, so when you first walk in, they checked your vaccine and your testing verification. There were 3 rows of this screening, and then you would walk in, and then there would be 2 streams. One that was bagless, and then one that was security with a bag. I actually had a bag. I brought a lunch pack, snack pack on one of the days, and the other day I bought the sling so that I could fit in a water bottle to refill. It was really quick, seamless process to get through security. They did check the bag, they touched the bag, they moved around. I know some festivals aren't touching items because of COVID, but they did do that for Lolla. They did not check your person, so they didn't pat you down or any of that nature, probably because of COVID. Once you go through, that was it. Then you could just go off and see who you wanted to see. Now, the one day that we actually did have to wait was Saturday, which is to be expected. Saturday is going to be the busiest day. People don't have anything to do. They don't have to go to work. So we did expect more of a wait there. I believe we got into the line around 4 o'clock, and we probably stayed in the line for about 20 minutes max. I did actually time us, and I think it was somewhere in between 15 and 20 minutes that it took us to get in through security. Now, in the land of COVID, of course, I personally felt like that was a long time. It seems longer than it actually was, but in retrospect, when you think of all the festivals that you've ever been to or concerts you've been to, waiting in line, that is not that big of a deal. So I would give the security process and then the screening process of getting through security an A. I think they did a great job, and I hope that that continues regardless of if we're in the middle of a pandemic or not. Now, the next topic I want to talk about is specifically the vaccine verification process. So, when you received your wristbands, there was a pamphlet that was included that had security information around what happens if you have a bag. You were also able to register your wristband and do cashless, and a cashless option, which I will talk about in a little bit. And then there was information around verification for a vaccine and testing. In order to get into Lollapalooza, you had to either have a negative test within the 72-hour window of going to the festival the day of, or you had to be fully vaccinated. Now, what does that mean? That means that if I decide to go to Lollapalooza on Thursday, I have to have a test at least by Tuesday or Monday with the date on it that says that I am testing negative. Were they checking? I know there was a lot of speculation of if they were gonna be checking in detail. Yes, they were. The very first day, we counted how many times we were checked before going into security to get our bags checked, and they actually looked at my vaccine card 3 times. Including my husband that was with me. So they do check, they check for the information on there, they verify, they look at you, and it is a detailed process. They don't just look and let you through. So I would say all in all, when you go through that section though, it's still pretty seamless and quick. It took us about 2 to 3 minutes to get through, but they are checking thoroughly. The second part is with Lollapalooza, before we got to the festival, the day before, they actually mentioned that we needed to have a physical copy of either the test or the vaccine card, that they would not be accepting it through a digital platform like an app, or if you took a picture and have it on your phone. Now, we saw a lot of people scrambling to go to Kinko's to print out their cards, and Lolla was very responsive on IG answering people's questions, so it wasn't like there was room for confusion there. They were very helpful, I think, digitally throughout the process, but that was something that people had to take in consideration for the first day. I think after the first day, they were a little bit more lenient with the digital version, where they I did see some people coming in with showing their phone or showing it through a vaccine app verification. So just keep in mind that a festival's guidelines could change at any minute, and you need to be aware of what those are in order to get into the festival. The next thing that I want to mention is, especially for those who are going unvaccinated and testing, the date on that test is imperative. So for instance, Lollapalooza is a 4-day festival. If you get tested the day before the festival starts, so if the festival starts on Thursday and you get tested on Wednesday, that is only good through the first 3 days of the festival, meaning Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That means that you have to get tested again before going in on Sunday, the very last day, because as I mentioned, it has to be 3 days before the day that you're attending of the day. So we did see a lot of people on Sunday getting pushed away when we did go up and tried to get in. Of course, like I mentioned in my vlogs, we had a family emergency, so we had to leave pretty much right away. But when we walked up, we did see a lot of people who were getting shown away for their test results. Even on the second day, if they happened to have it not taken the day before the festival started. So please be aware, pay attention to the date on your test results, because they look at that and they will screen you and ask you questions as you're coming in. All in all, what did I think about the vaccine verification? I thought it was very thorough. I thought it was very streamlined and strategic in how they did it. And I didn't hold up the line at all. And what I loved also about it is it made us feel so safe. Going through that process made us feel really good. Now, on our end, we didn't think that was enough just because it was the first big festival in North America. There were over 385,000 people who attended this festival, and it was like the first time that this was happening in the US. So we decided to mask up just in case in the event that something went wrong. And that also gave us a sense of security, and it also eased my anxiety, if I'm being honest. But what I would say is, all in all, it was a great process, and it made us feel really good, made us feel safe all 3 days. The process was the same throughout. They were thorough throughout, and they even sent Chicago city councilors undercover, people undercover, to make sure that the process was consistent. So the things that you need to take into consideration if you're going to a festival that has this vaccine mandate going on. Number one, make sure if you are unvaccinated and you are getting a test that you pay attention to the date on your test, and make sure you have that physical copy. You need to keep an eye on your vaccine cards, on your test results. You cannot lose those, because if you do, you're screwed after the first day. So make sure, A, that you pay attention to that date for the unvaxxed people, and number two, make sure that you keep a close eye on your vaccine card as well as your written results. I would also recommend, for a third tip, just in case, just like you would with maybe your driver's license or whatever, take a picture of that in the event that something happens so that you have a backup. There's also apps out there where you can upload your verification on a digital app to keep it safe and secure. I know New York has an app, but I think there's also just apps that are out there that allow you to do that. But make sure that they're legit apps, that you're not, uploading your vaccine card to some arbitrary place, because there is vaccine fraud and testing fraud going on out there. And I think in the coming months, they're going to crack down on that. The last thing that I would say is, if you're unvaccinated and you're testing, you may have to do multiple tests. Plan ahead. At Lolla, they did have the option to get tested there. If your test got expired, they had a separate tent that you could go to. But if you don't feel secure getting a test there, make sure that you plan ahead for that, that you take your second test, and that it's all set and done when you get to the gate. Even if you're unsure, I would say just be aware of that. And I think that is it when it comes specifically to the vaccine mandate. One other thing that I want to mention in terms of the future of all of this. So today, I don't know if you've been watching the news, but it sounds like that there is going to be a vaccine booster for all of those who are vaccinated if you get vaccinated after 8 months, because the efficacy wears down. So one thing that I'm keeping in mind and just thinking about is, you may need to get that booster shot or update your vaccine status so that you can be let into events like that if it expires. So more to come to that, but I think the last big tip that I have is, make sure that you are following the festival on social media, that you are reading your email updates, because things and policies can change, and you don't want to make it all the way down to the festival and not know what's going on, and then get turned away and you can't go to the festival. So keep yourself informed, make sure that you follow them on social media, or you're getting email updates, or you're checking the website periodically throughout the weekend. Before we move into the festival, can we talk about these earrings that I got from Brits Blossoms and Junifam? I mean, these are gorgeous. I can't wait to wear these to a show or to a festival. So I had to shout her out. I love her stuff so much. You know, I love fluffies and just crazy funky earrings. So anyways, all right. So in terms of the next category, food. All in all, I really thought the food selection was top notch. When you're walking down the main street of Grant Park, they had so many different types of vendors, so many different types of cuisine. They had Asian fusion, they had Southern style food, they had your favorite, chicken fingers, anything that your heart's desire. And they even had, frozen treats, things of that nature. They had such a good variety of options to choose from. In terms of the bars, yes, the cost of drinks were high. I believe we actually just got a water to keep ourselves hydrated, and it was like about $15 for a water, but it did come in a cool aluminum bottle that you could recycle or you could refill over the course of the weekend. So that's what we decided to do. We just went to the hydration stations, refilled our bottle for the day, and we were good to go. I actually tried the Robinson's #1 ribs. That's the restaurant, but they had chicken fingers, and we had the chicken fingers probably 2 days in a row. They were so good, guys. So it was just the perfect vibe, the perfect food just to have at a festival. So I would definitely rate the food an A as well. I think they did a great job having a good variety. The only downside about the food were the lines. There were really long lines, so I would rate the lines, and maybe we take down that a notch and give it a B+. The lines were really difficult, depending on obviously what venue or vendor you went to, but especially on Saturday, it just really sucked because the lines were in the middle of the main street of Way where you would go to and travel to different stages. So I actually felt like that wasn't the most ideal. So in terms of the flow of the lines for the food, that wasn't ideal, but I think they had a good amount of selection overall. The last thing I want to mention about the food and drinks is I love the cashless option that you could do. So basically you could either link a credit card or PayPal to your wristband, which we did link, I believe, our PayPal account to it. And that was great, especially just to have contactless, like not having to worry about spreading germs. It was really quick. You could just tap your wristband up against the sensor and it paid it automatically. Obviously, you have to be aware of how much you are spending, but I think that that was definitely a benefit of just keeping us COVID safe. Like, however many options that we can have to keep things contactless are good to go. I want to talk about where the sets and the different stages. So I think the stages were great. First off, Grant Park is huge, and what I love about Grant Park being such a huge venue is that they can spread out the stages so there isn't any sound bleed. So even when we were by T-Mobile and the Perry stage, and then you also had Lake Shore stage, there was never any sound bleed. Lake Shore's acts would also go off when T-Mobile's acts went on, so there wasn't any interruption between them. And you'll see in my vlogs, there's like a really long field where one stage is on one end and T-Mobile's on the other end. But all in all, there was no sound bleed, which I loved. The sound was crisp, it was nice, there's plenty of space to spread out. You didn't have to be in the crowd if you wanted to socially distance, and we just love to relax on the grass, like the whole just being able to kind of chill, and that vibe I really enjoyed about Lollapalooza. So I would definitely say that that was a highlight in terms of like the orientation and how everything spread out. The only downside is that the Bud Light stage is clear across the park. It's all the way towards a Millennium Park, which if you're from Chicago, you know that there's like the Roosevelt side and then there's like the Randolph side, and it's really, really long and it's a far walk. So you have to kind of plan if you're gonna go see someone at the Bud Light stage ahead of time what you're gonna do in terms of your schedule. We did see Journey there, and that was great, and all the other times we didn't really venture that far just because of the distance and the walk in our schedule. The acts that were highlights for me, number one was St. John. His vibe is just great. The man is so multi-talented. He raps, he sings, and he has a great voice, and he even has like fusion. He can do pop, he can do rock. He can also do this cool like reggae vibe. Like a lot of his music has that like flair and vibe to it. And it's funny because he wasn't at the top of our list to see, and we saw him on, I believe, Friday, the first day. We were passing through to get to a spot or to save our spot at T-Mobile. But as soon as we came upon him, we were just engrossed, and we spent the rest of the time there watching his set. And I was surprised with how many songs of his I actually knew. He did a collab with Beyonce, Brown Skin Girl, which is just a vibe. That song is the best. It just has such a positive message. But there were also other songs in there that even had some EDM influence that I didn't even know that he was on. I'd heard them before, but I just didn't associate him with those. So all in all, he's definitely a highlight. Another highlight that really stood out to me during the weekend on day 3 was Vintage Culture. Just classic house, like the best, like high energy set. Probably the best house set of the weekend for me, period. The vibes were great. He played like some classic songs mixed into his mixes. And again, it was high energy. It was a perfect like start to my day. It's the first set on that day 3 for me. And we just really enjoyed just the vibe that he put out there. So definitely would recommend seeing Vintage Culture if he's on a lineup near you soon. All right, the next standout act was Say My Name. And you know, Say My Name, he is the godfather of trap, EDM trap, so everyone knows about him, but I personally hadn't had a chance to go see him in concert. And so this was my first time seeing his set, and I have to say, every time he's on a lineup, I'm there. I am not the biggest EDM trap fan, but his vibe, something about it, just, he's very high energy for me. And he brought a good mix. He also played some house, some big room in there, and it really just like was one of the highest energy sets that we saw all weekend, and I was here for it. So I have to say that Say My Name definitely pulled through. He was a surprise act for me, and I'll definitely want to see him in the future for sure whenever I see him on a lineup. Honorary mentions, Tyler the Creator. The man is a genius. Rap isn't like my favorite genre. It's not the first on my list. House is, obviously. I love EDM, but I do enjoy a good rap artist that brings a sense of creativity, a sense of uniqueness to that genre, and Tyler the Creator delivers on that for me. He creates a story, a narrative. It's almost like watching theater in motion when you see his sets, and I really enjoyed that about his set. From the very beginning of the costuming and him moving things around, when he tells a story, it leads into another song. And I think oftentimes with rap, there isn't a cool transition in between song after song like you might get from a DJ, but I think Tyler Creator brings that like more immersive experience into what he does. And so I would definitely say that he was a highlight. We didn't say for his whole set, but the amount that I saw, I was thoroughly impressed. So kudos to him. And then the last, it's just a nostalgic like oldie but goodie, but I will always remember sitting in the lawn at the Bud Light stage with my husband watching Journey. Like, it was just probably a moment where I really let everything sink in, just going through a pandemic over the past year and a half and being in that moment and enjoying some good music, just some good old like classic music. And I do remember a moment where I've like looking around and everyone's singing along to the song, and you can just hear everyone's joy. Like, everyone was just in the moment. No one was, you know, hanging on to their phones. Everybody was just present, and I really enjoyed that. And so definitely have to shout out that Journey was an unforgettable moment. In terms of the bottom, to be honest with you, I didn't have a lot of bottom acts to talk about. One that came to mind, Jack Hollow. He is a rap artist. There's a couple of songs that me and my husband enjoy of his, but he just didn't do it for me. Like, and I have to say, like, all of the acts were on time. The first thing that turned me off is he was late to his set. Every other act that we saw was on time, so that kind of turned me off. But then too, like, there just wasn't any energy like in the crowd. Like, I don't know, people weren't feeling it or what, but it just kind of fell flat for me. And maybe I'll go see him again and get another opportunity and he'll redeem himself. But it just, in that moment, maybe it just, I wasn't in the mood. But he just didn't do it to me. It just didn't land. The song that is my favorite of his, when he did play that, I did feel some energy. I felt hype, but all in all, he just wasn't my favorite of the weekend. And last but not least, this is more so of not bad, but I want to see more, and that is the Chami set. So the Chami set that we saw was great. It was more of a low-key kind of house vibe, and when I was going into the set, I think I was anticipating a more higher energy set. So in that sense, I guess it wasn't what I expected it to be. However, the music was great. It wasn't at the energy level that I wanted, but the music was great. The vibes were great. His transitions were awesome. And anyway, the reason I say that the jury is out is because I want to see more sets from him. I have a couple more festivals coming up. I believe he's on the EDCO lineup. So I want to see, you know, how his sets change. Maybe, you know, for Lolla, he was more of a low-key vibe and he'll pick up the energy at a different festival. So all in all, I wouldn't say that I'm never gonna see him again because I love his music and his sound and I'm such a house stan. It just wasn't what I expected in that moment and where my mood was at. I wanted something to pick me up. So I'm excited to see what more he can do. So those are my thoughts on all of the sets that I saw over the weekend. So the final category that I want to talk about is the crowd. So first off, everybody knows that Lollapalooza is an all ages event. What that means is you could have families with toddlers come in and you can have 16-year-olds who, you know, are immature and don't know what they're doing, but you can also have very experienced festival goers. The sky is the limit. What I will say, and I believe that this is true, is that each day the crowd age did shift. Was the crowd overall for the entire weekend on the younger side? Absolutely. But I did notice that on some days it was younger than others. For instance, on the Journey Day, I definitely saw a lot more experienced festival goers because, hello, it's Journey. So I just have to say that depending on the acts and what they draw in, I think that is a part of it. All in all, I know that, you know, a lot of people complain about the younger generation when they go to festivals being rude and obnoxious and going overboard. And actually, I don't know if it was because of the pandemic, but we thought that everyone was pleasantly behaved. Were there some people that took it a little too far with the drinking, and I'm sure they took party favors? Absolutely. But what I love to see was there was this intermingling of older kind of festival goers showing the younger festival goers the way. So I saw at the porta potties one of the days someone that was there to see Journey with his girlfriend. He was an older festival goer, and then a kid who was younger who was clearly like gone. And he was helping him find his friends. And that just warmed my heart that like we could, you know, regardless of age range, help each other out and support each other and all enjoy the same festival and the same music, because that's what it's all about. All of us enjoy the music overall. So what I would have to say is the crowd was great. The energy was awesome. There was no negativity. Everyone was in a good mood. I don't think I even saw anyone fight at this festival. I think it was just, we were all so grateful to be there and to be a part of this experience after the pandemic, that the vibes were just always very positive. Everyone was having a very good time. And the scenery, the skyline, the weather was perfect. It was just a perfect weekend in Chicago for a summer festival. The first day was the hottest day, and then it was just pleasant weather. So all in all, I would say the vibes, I would give them, just because we did have a younger crowd and, you know, that is a factor to consider, I would give it an 8 out of 10. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope you found my tips on how we can navigate festivals in the fall and into the next year helpful as well. I'll try to type up my tips below in the comments as well as in the description box. What do you think about this new policy? And also, if you did go to Lolla, what were your thoughts and your review of this festival? This video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you click subscribe to get more videos from me around rave and festival content. I have a lot coming up, including some videos for ARC Music Festival in Chicago, as well as North Coast Music Festival and EDCO. I love you guys so much, and as I always say, positive self, positive wealth. Bye guys, see you later.